Good afternoon, woman of truth. Today we're going to attempt to create a video that I've been wanting to create for over a year. The reason I haven't done it is because I'm super bashful about making this video. It's dealing with a subject that I'm just not the expert on, and I'm such a beginner and such a novice that I'm super bashful, and I think we're going to title it The Idiot's Guide to Prepping by Faith. I like that because it's very important that when I talk about prepping, you realize I am not the expert. You know the experts out there. I learn from the experts, but I see a need for somebody like myself to get down on the level with your everyday person who just kind of struggles, to pay their bills. I struggle. I don't know what person out there said to seek your passion. If you seek your passion, it'll bring you money. I don't know who said that, but I beg to differ. I've been running after my passion all my life. I've never been greedy. And let me tell you something. If you don't like money, or if you're not driven by making money, you're going to have a hard time making it. So I don't know who said that, and I know they meant well. And maybe, the future will tell still that that pursuit is accurate. But so far in my life, I have chased after things of integrity. Even my channel is called Woman of Truth. I'm a private detective. I own an agency in Delaware. Delaware is 90 miles long, 30 miles wide. I've held agency licenses in states like South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Maryland. And so I know how hard it is to survive as a small business. And I chased after my passion, my love for truth as a detective and as a prior police recruit. I have chased after those things that mean the most to me, and so far they have not made me wealthy. But today we're going to talk about prepping, something that I know even less about. But because I believe that I am that person, that normal everyday person just struggling to make it, I believe that that's who the public needs to hear from. Because I've had people send me messages and say, man, Bobby, I want to prep, but I can't afford to, or it's just not possible for me to. And they're worried, folks. They're seeing the signs around us. And, those of us are maybe better positioned in personality. I'm a little bit unconventional, somewhat rogue on my own, and we make good preppers because we just get out there and we get it done. But the average everyday person who's just struggling to make their insurance payments, and they're struggling to put groceries on the table, and they aren't getting free handouts from the government. They are trying to survive, and they want to prep, but they don't know where to start. So we're going to title this The Idiot's Guide to Prepping by Faith. And here is my word of wisdom to everyone. If you cannot prep by faith, you're better off not prepping at all. I'm telling you, I know the experts out there, and the health ranger would probably be rolling his eyes right now and saying, no, don't say that. But I'm telling you, you can't prep by faith. You are better off not prepping at all. And I'll tell you why. We live by faith. We walk by faith and not by sight. And God will honor the one who has very little or who has nothing, but who walks by faith. It is more honorable to walk by faith during a crisis than it is to walk by fear. So I believe that. I have seen God provide. He will take care. There are verses he says he'll care for the sparrow of the field and the lily of the field and the sparrow of the air. He cares about you, and if you have nothing, he will provide. But if you have the ability to prep, then you know what? Why not start somewhere? And I think this is a good start. So here we go. We're going to go out in the heat wave, and we're going to first talk about having a shelter in a time of crisis. One more sip of my water. It's just carbonated water, and then we'll hit the road. Here we go, folks. Okay, let's talk about shelter, okay? Now, if you don't own your property, you have reason to be concerned. The way that our country is just handing out money, printing money, it's just plain money. It's monopoly money. It's going to come to an end. And if all your money, and I am not the expert, I have no silver or gold other than the silver that I wear on my body. That's it. And the gold I have in my jewelry box. I don't have it. I don't have the money. I'm like those people who send me messages and say, well, what do I do? I see the signs of the times, but I don't have the money. Well, I'm right there with you, sister. I'm right there with you, brother. I have a few assets, but not much at all. Matter of fact, I don't, they just don't make up much on paper. But if all of your assets, I do know this, are wrapped up in $1 that's going to fail, then you need to go to the experts and you need to figure out where to put your finances, where to put that money. And of course, to have it in solid assets, whether it's silver, gold, land, property, equipment, even I know you need to do that. But let's just say something were to happen to the dollar. There was a major crisis tomorrow, and all you have is you're renting, and you have no assets. You don't own any land, and the bank owns you lock, stock, and barrel, and you didn't put part of your property. And I just learned this. I thought homestead programs were where you go out and you're either granted or you take a portion of land and you're able to homestead. You know what homestead laws in the state of Delaware only mean that if you have a farm and many acres and a huge crisis comes, if you're in a homestead program, you can reserve like 1 to 5 acres so that you are not completely taken over when everything crashes to the ground. So you tie up that little portion of your estate. So I'm not an expert, but I know this, that if you don't own land or own a house, out and out own it, not bank own it, but if you don't own it, you could be in a situation where you need a shelter. First things first, let's talk about the cargo trailer conversion that I made last year. It is completely done. It is gorgeous. It's set up for off-grid living, and you can see my prepping stuff we're going to talk about. But I'm going to show you how you can take a cargo trailer conversion under $5,000, the purchase of the trailer. Now, you're going to end up spending several thousand to build this out, because every little thing that I point out to you is costly. Because building materials are super high right now. Simple insulation, super high. Plywood, if you want to get a decent piece of plywood, you can't even go in to buy your 2x4s. Half the time you have to go through 50 2x4s to get 5 straight ones. I mean, the quality of stuff that's out there and the inflated prices off the charts. But I can show you that you can take a cargo trailer that costs you under $5,000 and you can build it out and create a comfortable temporary shelter with a full shower using a potable system, a hot water heater. This is meant, everything in here was meant to operate off of a combination of, well, one of two things. A generator that is gas powered, and that's if you have access to gas. What if you don't have access to gas? And we're going to talk about that later. But you can bug out using the Predator 3500, which is very quiet. You want to be as stealth as possible, but still they're not quiet compared to a solar inverter charger power system. And that's what this was created to run off of. I created this to maybe use the Predator to run the air conditioner at night, just the air conditioner. But to run everything else that you see here off of an EcoFlow or a Bluetti. There are other brands that don't cost as much, but I'm not positive about their quality. There's a wonderful guy that I can put in a link under this video who can tell you about all of them. But my choices come down to EcoFlow or Bluetti. And this was created to work off of about 400, what is it called? I don't even know how to measure the power from the sun, but 400 watt solar panels. And that would be using each appliance one by one, maybe not everything at one time, and perhaps run this using the Predator, because those solar packages that use the LiFePO, that's the LiFePO4. I believe that's a lithium iron phosphate. And I have concluded in my studies that when it comes to battery power, I'm going to go with the LiFePO versus just the regular lithium, simply because you are going to get years of use out of that LiFePO4, which is the lithium iron phosphate. And that's why I'm going to choose to go with EcoFlow or Bluetti. And if you're a sponsor out there and you want to sponsor me and you have access to that stuff, listen, I'll toot your horn and praise your product. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you the rest of the trailer. Now this is just a DIY. This is a DIY. It's just a roller blind. I think I got it for $13 and it was huge. And I got it on sale for $13, and I looked at it last year and it serves two purposes. It's a great for my outdoor projector. The kids and grandkids love to come out here on a nice, cool evening, but you know, just comfortable enough, and you can use it as a projector screen. And I have the equipment to turn it into an awning, but it is a DIY awning. You will have to remove it when you are in transit with this vehicle. As you can see, I created a wonderful little kitchen, and let me show you what my artistic friend did last week, 2 weeks ago. She created this glaze, porcelain glaze, acrylic glaze over the insert that covers my sink. I absolutely freaking love it. And we are actually this week going to take this shelf and we are going to do the same thing on that cheap little shelf and just turn it into a beautiful work of art. What she did was a modern beach scene. It goes well with the color scheme of this trailer. And let's just demonstrate the wonderful water system that we have here. Take a looky. That is the dark blue tank is my fresh water. That's a little lithium battery pack that's rechargeable. That right there in the back is the gray water, but I plumbed it by putting on a rain barrel spigot, and it's in the on position so that it goes right outside the bottom of the trailer. I can turn that off, pull it all out. Let's demonstrate the working of the water to show you that the old girl here's got it down. She is a plumber as well as a builder. Look at that, folks. That is simply amazing. And if you want hot water here, it's no problem to just put a tiny hot water heater and hook it up there. So I'm going to turn this off. These appliances were made to use the 110. They are 110, this one and this one. This one, I honestly can't remember if I ordered 12 volt or 110. It doesn't matter really, because the system that you're going to use to power this is the solar with the inverter and the charger, and you can plug in your AC 110, or you can use the 12 volt. Now the fan that I installed is 12 volt, so of course it will be plugged into the 12 volt. I will wire it. The wires are on the end. I will fish them through, hide those wires, and bring it over here so that you can house the solar thing right under the bed. Now, the bed, the beautiful bed. This is in the halfway position. It's the favorite position. Oh, before we move on to that, it's the beautiful piece in this room that makes this so wonderful is the wood stove, the tiny wood stove. And it's amazing. I converted it to burn pellets, and that's the only way to go. Now, in a survival situation and you don't have access to pellets, but you do have access to hardwoods, then certainly go get your hardwoods, and you can burn logs, cut them small. But of course, all that takes energy and power, and you're going to have to be able to operate a chainsaw, and of course the no-tech by using an axe, which I had that as well. The shower has the same principle as the sink. You can turn on this pump and turn on the water. I'm not going to do it because I have not unplugged. I have a plug underneath that keeps that plugged up so no critters can crawl in the plumbing. Or you can hook it directly to a hose using that port and then hooking the hose up here, and then you have a limitless supply of water. This hot water heater works well with the potable water, but it doesn't work that well when you have lots and lots of pressure that comes from the hose. But that's no problem. They make little propane heaters for an endless supply of hot water. Now, I want to show you how the bed just can be extended into a queen size bed, and you put it right into the shower space. So we're going to lower the legs, put those legs out until they snap. You can hear them snap into place. Yep, you heard it. That one did, this one did. And you lower it down. Now, that's just half of it. Then to fully convert it into a queen, you lift this piece up, it pops down into there, and then I have cushions that go and that are cut perfect to the size to go in here. Now let's raise this back up because I just like it in this position when I'm going to come out here and hang out. So to put it in the position again where it was, you put it like that, lower the legs, easy peasy. Now in the winter, the toilet area, that toilet, which is not the toilet that will be used, this is just a camp toilet that I decorated just because. That's my girl. She's been with me from the beginning, and I had to dress her out. She'll never be used. It's just a camping toilet. But I've always kept it in this build just to remind me that there will have to be a space for the toilet. So that toilet, or the composting toilet that will go with this, can sit in here or sit there. In the winter, when the window unit is not in the window, this piece, you pull this off, and then this piece rises up and hooks right there on that hook, and you have it's completely open in here. And then you just put it down to make the queen size bed. Now, that's the trailer on the inside. And as you can see, it has puck lights, a beautiful shower with a teak floor and a dressed out trim. And it has a TV that I normally keep covered. I cover it with styrofoam, and there's this special canvas cover that goes over it, but I was actually using it the other day, so it is uncovered. You have cabinet space. The cabinets were built by yours truly. Look at that amazing space in there. You still have a considerable, let's put that towel in here. You have a considerable amount of space for storage left in here. I have a dolly there on wheels. And then you have space underneath each side. And you can put this in the bench position so that, you know, you pull the middle out, fold them both back, and then they also lift up. It like unfolds like origami. It just, you know, everything folds out, multi-purpose, multi-use. Let's take a look at the outer part of the shelter. Folks, you can build this yourself. You can commission me to build one like this or build one larger. And you see the electric port, there's the water port, and it has a rack on the top for the sport enthusiast. It has a chimney. The chimney was put in according to the specs. It is a safe vehicle. Now, if you have a house that's paid for, maybe you don't have a house, but you have land that's paid for, nobody's going to confiscate it. I mean, come on. The IRS arming their agents. Why do you think they're arming their agents, folks? Now, I believe there was always a division that was armed, but why are they adding so many more armed personnel? You know, my theory is all those small businesses that the SBA lent to, who borrowed more money than they really had or that they could pay back, they now become part of the government's property. So there's no doubt in my mind that people who got into loans last year far greater than they could handle, that's why they're arming so many more agents. And that should scare you, folks. But if you have land, you don't have a house, but you have land, this is a perfect alternative for you. Should our nation hit a crisis, and there's nothing wrong with you building one on the side now, even if you don't need it. And just be prepared. It's all about preparation. Now, let's talk water. Water is probably the thing that I'll be honest with you. This idiot prepper by faith doesn't really know what to do in case I have no power to run the pump and I have no access to my private well. I don't have the knowledge to take my solar power to get that pump going. I guess I should be working on that. But let's talk zero tech right now. Do you have access to water? If you own land, I highly recommend, and I own 1 acre, that's it. And I'm not living on that acre yet, but at some point in the near future, I will be. And one of the first things that I'll do on that property, you can guarantee, is attempt to dig a hand pump well on my property. And because we live in such a high water table area underneath the earth, we should be able to successfully dig a shallow well, but I may not. You know, you can go on YouTube and see the videos of people like Dave Whipple, and he'll show you how to dig a shallow well and put a hand pump in. And his wife, actually, Girl in the Woods, look at her videos. And that's if you're fortunate to have access to water at a shallow level. And their water is pretty clean. It's Michigan, where their videos are that they're putting the well in. Now, for my animals, what I plan on doing. Remember, it's not just me that has to be fed. It's my animals. It's not just me that needs water. It's my animals. What I'll do is I'll take an IBC tote like this. If I have fair warning. This is if I have fair warning before the crisis. The timing has to be just right for this to work out. For my baby girl chickens, if I have fair warning, I will fill this tank up. I will get the correct measurement for treating that water with chlorine. Not enough to hurt the chickens, but enough that they can drink it and not die, and not, die of thirst. And I can use that water if I have to for bathing in. I do not recommend drinking it. However, in a bad crisis, that might be all you have, folks. Treated sitting chlorine water. It's not a good thing. I don't even know if it's doable. It's the same with the swimming pool. Even in Delaware, when we have hurricanes, I never really worry. I know I'm probably not going to go a week without water. I make sure I have plenty of drinking water stored up before the hurricane comes. And but I know that I have water to put in a bucket to flush the toilet with, because I have a swimming pool. So I make sure that I keep that pool pretty clean throughout the hurricane season for that reason. And also I have bathing water if I have to. And that's pretty awesome. I wouldn't need a pump. I'd just have access to the pool. Now, we talked about shelters. What else can you do with a shelter? My girls this past month got me hooked on the series Alone. I love it. I watched every single season. But my little granddaughters, we wanted to play Alone. And I said to them one Friday night, okay, come on over, and tomorrow I'm going to give you a task. You're going to go in the garage and you're gonna pick 2 tools. And one of them's 10 years old, the other is 5. My granddaughters, the next day, were so excited that they chose rope or string, They chose a tarp. I gave them a tarp, actually. I told them they can each choose 2 tools out of the garage. And but I'm giving them the tarp, just like on a loan. They chose rope, fence stakes, a big axe that they could use to hammer down the stakes, and string. And they would not let me help them, and I kid you not, those 2 granddaughters in a half hour built a structure that you could stay in overnight anyway. And I was so proud of them. But you cannot underestimate the power of a tarp. I mean, I have like 4 of them, and tarps are amazing. And somebody sent me this link yesterday where this guy is showing you how to take an old bed sheet and put the chemical on it to turn it into a heavy tarp, and they're actually heavier than the tarps you buy. But tarps are priceless. Now, here's an item that I picked up along these lines because I'm building a DIY shade or awning. They make a better product that you can order from Amazon. But you see that little twisty stake? I picked up 6 of them at Walmart. They were under $2 a piece. Now, granted, I have other stakes like this, but I wanted the kind that twist into the earth and that have the hole as well as the loop, because I'm actually going to use these when I finish creating the awning. But these are great to have. Get yourself a dozen of these for your tarp, because if you have to create a shelter for a survival situation, or at least maybe just create a shade spot, maybe you have to work out in the heat, then go ahead and get some of these. Now, there are better quality ones online, but I didn't want to pay $30 for 4 of them. I'd rather pay $12 for 6 of them. And but tarps are amazing. Solar products like solar lights. This little lantern is a solar light. It gives you wonderful light, but it also has a little port here to charge your phone in an emergency. At least you'll be able to charge your phone to call for help. Tools. You go to Mike Adams, the health ranger, and let him tell you about tools. But my choice of tools are going to be, considering I have a solar and a generator, considering I have the solar unit I'd like to get, I will get what I would call low-tech tools. These are using the batteries. This is just a little speaker set, but you can get the radio so you have an emergency radio. But these little batteries, they power my hand tools, you know, my hand tools. I had to replace the ones I was using because I was using my daughter's, and she says, "Mom, we're gonna need those back." So I went and bought my own. But anyway, tools are very important. Let me show you what I have that I think are just invaluable for tools. These are gonna be, I wouldn't call them high-tech, but I would call them low-tech. They're certainly not no-tech. I have my share of no-tech. No-tech is a good old axe or a good old hatchet. Keep them sharpened, and you use this one. This is an old girl right here, and you're going to use that head there to hammer in your, use it as a hammer as well as an axe. And you're going to use that to hammer in your stakes or hammer in your fence posts, which I have my share of fence posts. Now, for a high-tech to mid-tech, I love these little chainsaws. I've got 2 of them right here. They're just small chainsaws. They work great for cutting up small logs. I built my deck with those. They're wonderful. I can't live without my jigsaw, which is also going to be battery operated. The ones I have are battery operated. So that I always have, when I get the solar source, I'll always have something to charge them with. And yeah, so that's my choice of the tools. Of course, I have a lot of other hand tools that are zero tech. They're no tech. Now, let's talk about cooking. I want to show you something. When Texas had their freeze, which Delaware has had many freezes, many ice storms where we're out without power for a week through the years. some of you don't know, but Delaware and used to have really solid freezes every year. You could count on going to the lakes and ice skating on them because they would freeze over. It has been decades since Delaware's climate has been that cold. It's been very mild. But when Texas had their freeze and everybody lost power, I was very concerned because I'm concerned about losing our power grid. So I went online after that week had passed, and I wanted to see how some of the Texans survived. And one guy, and I liked this idea because this is for survival, folks. One guy had a kerosene heater, and I'm all about multi-purpose. When I built that trailer, it's how can I build something and create multi-purposes out of it? Everything has to have at least 2 uses. And so I saw this guy cooking on a kerosene heater because I was wondering, can you cook on a kerosene heater? Because kerosene can be stored for up to 5 years. You can store it, it stores well. Gasoline does not. Matter of fact, that Predator out there has gas in it that I put in February. I need to run that out and use that Predator, or I need to empty it out. Kerosene is different. It stores very well and can be stored in containers up to 5 years. So I went and bought this type of kerosene heater in case I lose power during the winter so that I have a cook source. And if it's really cold, see, now I have no issues with cooking outside. I have fire pits. I have 2 fire pits. I can cook outdoors anytime. But what if it's just so cold and, you know, you need something you can safely cook on indoors. So I saw that video, and first chance I got, I went and got me a flat top kerosene heater. I made sure it was a kerosene heater that does get hot on top. I've never used it and never done it. I also have that little wood stove in the emergency mobile unit, I call it, the cargo trailer conversion. And I have that wood stove that you can cook on. So I did go ahead and get some cookware that was small enough to sit on top of that. Cast iron's the only way to go, or very, very heavy steel. So here's a little tiny pan, cast iron. Now, for other cooking, a Dutch oven. I highly recommend it. This is a 5-quart cast iron. It's pretty heavy. After buying it, even though I love cast iron, I'll use that, probably end up using it in my house because I love cast iron. They really make a good rabbit stew, or, you know, I grew up in Delaware where everybody in the family were hunters, so I know what it's like to have wild game, and I know what it's like to kill wild game and cook it. I can see a pot of venison stew or rabbit stew inside that cast iron, but I'm thinking that perhaps for in here, I would rather go with maybe just a very heavy gauge steel, simply because it's going to be a little bit lighter in weight, and I'm not sure I haven't made up my mind on that one. Now, we're just talking about equipment right now, and I want to just show you some of the nifty little things that you can pick up as a poor girl. Remember, I'm the idiot prepper in faith. Look at this. This is what you put a flagpole in. Do you know how awesome that can come in handy right here if you need a temporary shelter that you don't want to blow away and you have heavier equipment to use with that canvas? A bed, a hammock, and a bag. Check it out. I own 2 other ones over here. Look at that. Made myself a little sweet spot there in the corner where 2 people can hang out. But let's just say your dwelling is nothing but a tarp and a canvas, and you want to get up off the ground. The very same, if you have trees around, you know, here you've got a bed off the ground. You can't get enough of these, folks. Long matches. You can't get enough of this stuff. Little butane lighters, little stainless steel cups that you can actually put right on the fire. This is a little tiny oven that you pull out, little stainless steel oven that you pull out just for outdoor cooking. These things like that, they're wonderful to have. You can never have enough of different types of poly rope and cord and rope. You want to get all different kinds. They all serve different purposes. What's this? Oh, stuff like this. Bungees, ball bungees, to be used with your tarps. And you know, I know this is simple, but watch the colors you get. Get bright orange, bright green, so that they're hard to lose, or yellow. There are just so many things that the poor person can get. Now let's talk food. We talked about a little bit about equipment, and that doesn't even touch the surface. What about batteries? All kinds of batteries. Again, this is the idiot's guide to prepping by faith. This is for the folks like me who don't have a bunch of money to put into this. And but you know, there are things you can go to the dollar store and get. You can get health and beauty aids. You can get first aid stuff. You can get hydrogen peroxide. You can get rubbing alcohol. You can get gauze bandages. You can get butterfly bandages. Get super glue. We here, listen, I raised 7 kids. We didn't haul our kids off to the doctor every time one of us needed stitches. We're like a prepping family. When you're that big, you know, you just glue the thing together, sanitize it, glue it together, and keep on rolling. That's how we roll. And that's how you have to roll in a crisis. Now I'm gonna say something that's pretty interesting. Even years ago, having farm animals, and we're talking first aid now. Now, I'm not saying go do this. But in an emergency situation, it used to be that your Tractor Supply and other Tractor Supply, farm supply stores would have, you know, medicines in there for the animals, or antibiotics, that in a crisis situation, you could, you know, use the proper dosage and you could use. But ironically, people must be scared, because my daughter has needed penicillin for her goats for about 2 months. And every time she calls over there or goes into Tractor Supply, they don't have any. Something's up, folks. And I said to her, I said, you know what that is? I said, that's all the human preppers out there saying, I'm gonna go get my supply of penicillin. So whether it's right, wrong, or against the law, I don't know. That's not what this channel is about. I'm saying, what would you do in a crisis? And I know without a doubt that there are preppers out there using up all the antibiotics that they know that they're not going to be able to get a hold of in a crisis. So that covers that. Now let's talk food. Food is the last thing. Remember, water was the first thing I talked about. If you have access to drilling a shallow pump that does not require electricity, it's just priming that pump and pulling that water up. The only way to go, bar none. If you don't have that, then we all need to come up with some conclusion as to how much drinking water we should be collecting and storing right now. And then of course you can collect rainwater with your rainwater barrel. It's shocking that I don't have one set up here, but I should, and that should be on my list of priorities. When I get on my property, I will do that. And but that is something that needs to be done. But now we're going to talk food. Somebody the other day was telling me, they saw my little buckets I had in the house, and they said, oh, my son is doing that. He's got all this rice in this big Tupperware, or not Tupperware. She said he's got all this rice in this big tote. She called it a tote, and I knew what it was, like a Rubbermaid tote. I said, well, that's awesome, but he needs to do a little bit different. You need to get 5-gallon buckets with the proper lids. And let's see if we put this down here for just a second, folks. I'm going to show you the difference in the lids. This is my bad arm right now. So this is a screw off lid. It's made of 2 pieces. Did I bring the other one? Now this is a second piece. I already have it on. It has a, can I get it off? It has a rubber seal on it. You snap that on, then you screw this in. I said, those totes are not good enough to store your rice and your beans. You really do need the type of lid. It's a two-piece lid. Like I said, I can't get this other one off because of my shoulder. My shoulder is broken, and it really takes some strength after you pop it on there. It has a little rubber seal underneath. But the lids that come with these buckets, this bucket was like $6. It is a food grade bucket. The lid that either comes with them or that you can buy to snap on, they're about $3.50, $4. That's not going to work. You have to have this type of lid in order to keep that food for a long period of time. Again, the two-piece lid, it's called a screw top lid, and that's what you want to use. I may be wrong. The lid is more costly than the bucket, but see, where did I get mine? I think I got it at Lowe's. I can't remember. I think I got the bucket and the lid at Lowe's. But the lid is going to cost you twice as much as the bucket, but it's worth it. So I told her, you know, go ahead, but put it in a cool, dry spot. If you grew up canning, or you know how to can, and you plant a garden, you need to do it. If you have never planted a garden, now's the time to experiment. And I love the hydroponics vertical growing. It's a combination of hydroponics and vertical growing. It's wonderful. I'm going to experiment with that this year. And you can set up a room in your house even with lights. You can set up a place. If you have a greenhouse, of course, you're going to have to power that greenhouse and keep the temperature and the lighting right. But you can grow all year round if you put a little effort and a little time into it. But learn to can. I grow a garden every year till this year. I couldn't do it. I had a broken shoulder, broken ribs. I'm still having trouble. I couldn't even get that lid off. But I'm getting better every day, but that's why I didn't plant a garden this year. So I had to depend on the local produce from my area. What I will put in those buckets is rice, different rices. Now, beans are good. They're easy to store. They're gonna last a long time. But here's the problem I have with an uncooked bean. For those of you who know and you're experienced at cooking dry beans, they need to soak overnight. Then you're gonna have to cook the devil out of them. So they require hours of cooking. They require a lot of cooking time. That's energy. So I would consider that if there's anything out there that you want to store up for a crisis, I would go with canned beans, or I would go with the preppers, you know, the beans that they have in their prepping food bags and all. I would consider doing that. What those containers are going to be good for, it is going to be good for your rice, your condiments, your salts, your pepper, your seasonings. Now, I did see something online. If you have chickens and you want to store the eggs, there's something that's called, what is it called? It's almost like pickling the egg, but what is it called? They use lime in a bucket of water like this, and you seal it off, you drop the eggs in, and I think it's called, is it called icing them? I can't remember, but that is a wonderful idea. You need to just look it up. You're using lime, you're using water, and you're using a bucket, and you're putting those eggs in there, and they're keeping them for many, many months. Now, that's just a touch of what you can do as a normal person. That Predator 3300, or is it 3500? The Predator 3500, I got that through work. I did work for somebody, they ran out of money, they gave me the Predator, I was happy. I walked away with a generator that I was gonna get anyway. And all the other things, and there's a lot more that I have stored up, but these were the things that I just pulled out, and I just wanted to give you an idea of what your average person, your poor girl, can accumulate in just a short amount of time. Tape, what is it called? Masking tape, electrical tape, Gorilla tape, awesome stuff, man. It's just great stuff. All these things are just so helpful to prepare for a crisis. Well, that's it for today, folks. If you're interested in a cargo trailer conversion, take a look at my videos. If you like my videos, hit like, subscribe. I very rarely try to sell myself. You can count on one hand every time I try to sell myself or to sell my product, which is my work as a private detective. You can find me at www.leducinvestigations.com. I'm a private detective. I can be commissioned to build your cargo trailer conversion. I'm just a girl of all trades, I guess. But I rarely sell myself or my products. But today, if you like my videos, if they're helpful to you in any way, hit like, subscribe, and take care. God bless you, and God bless America.